remembering the tragedy of their lives. The relatives of the victims of the Air India terror bombing once again comforted in the embrace of the Irish. Samantha Falk is in Ireland for reunions that are touching the heart.
From our National News Centre, Global National, here's Kevin Newman.
Vancouver's International Airport 20 years ago today. Someone, and we still don't know who, was executing Canada's worst act of terrorism. On board a flight for Toronto and another one for Tokyo, 2 bombs have been planted in the luggage. The one for Tokyo would detonate early. The one for Toronto would be transferred to a flight to India and detonate en route. Hello and thank you for joining us. Until the September 11th attacks, no act of terrorism had claimed as many lives as the 329 people killed on that Air India flight when it exploded near Ireland. Tomorrow is the memorial service near Cork. Relatives of the victims and the Irish townspeople who helped them cope will gather around this memorial sundial, which is positioned so that a shadow will move across it at the same time so many people lost their lives in the North Atlantic 2 decades ago. Today, the gatherings were more informal and probably a little more human. The relatives of victims' families coming face to face again with Irish Angels of Mercy. Global BC's Samantha Falk is covering this for us from Cork, Ireland. Samantha?
Kevin, most of the emergency personnel who were dispatched after the Air India bombing came from the city of Cork. And tonight, the victims' families were reunited with hundreds of people who worked the front lines of the disaster. For many, it's a place of haunting memories. And tonight, relatives of the victims of the Air India bombing are returning to the hospital where 20 years ago they identified their loved ones.
It feels very awkward being here, uncomfortable, but in a way it brings back some good memories if there are some, and those were of the people.
The occasion, a special service in memory of those who died. But it's also a chance for the families to reconnect with the people who were there, working in the aftermath of the tragedy.
It's just something that's stayed with us for something we thought about every day since it happened.
Daniel Aron and Mark Stagg were at sea with the Irish Merchant Marines when they were called to a plane crash off the Cork coast. They have never spoken on TV about what they saw.
For several hours, rather naively, and because we're not trained for that kind of work, we thought we were on a rescue mission. And as Danny said, it never was. It was a recovery mission.
Appeared to be of a pyramid shape floating in the water over there.
The recovery mission took days, and then the bodies were transported to Cork for identification.
We set up viewing rooms with flowers and the smell of incense, because an Indian friend of ours told us that's what they would like. And so when they actually came down to view the dead, they weren't exposed to 131. They actually were only exposed to the one body.
The 20th anniversary comes just 3 months after 2 men were acquitted in the Air India bombing. And since then, the families have been calling for a public inquiry. And tonight, the man who's advising the government on the issue gave the strongest indication yet that he will recommend it happens.
I don't think we can walk away from this event as a country. It seems to me that we simply can't say, well, you know, the 2 guys got off and that's all we know. And, you know, in fact, from my preliminary review of the file, I'd say we know a lot more than that. And there's a lot more we have to come to terms with and have to deal with.
Tomorrow's ceremony will be attended by dignitaries from around the world, including Prime Minister Paul Martin, British Columbia Premier Gordon Campbell, and Irish President Mary McAleese. Kevin?
All right, Samantha, thank you very much. And Prime Minister Martin has asked the Governor-General to declare tomorrow, June 23rd, a national day of mourning from this year forward.